Good afternoon. This is Bob Messing, and this afternoon we're going to discuss the little-known story of Jewish Holocaust money. When one hears the word Holocaust, it brings to mind many things. The murder of 6 million Jews, the eradication of centuries of Jewish civilization and culture in Europe, the unbelievable cruelty of Nazi Germany and its allies. For most people, what it does not bring to mind is Holocaust money. The Holocaust was Nazi Germany's attempt to make Europe Judenrein, to make Europe cleansed from all Jews. To accomplish this task, Nazi Germany built thousands of concentration camps and established ghettos throughout Europe to segregate, to isolate, and to murder Jews. And it was in the concentration camps and ghettos that Nazis created special money that could only be used nowhere else. The money is little known and even less understood. Today we will shed some light on this money. Holocaust money might seem to be a small element in the history of the Shoah, the Holocaust. However, there are two reasons why Holocaust money is significant. Holocaust money shows how detail-oriented the Nazis were in their attempt to humiliate and eradicate the Jews. Number two, after the last Jewish Holocaust survivor has passed away, Holocaust money will still exist and bear witness to the tragedy of the Holocaust. Topics. Today we will explain why the Nazis minted Holocaust money for their concentration camps, how Holocaust money was obtained by inmates, what the inmates used Holocaust money for, and finally, what Holocaust money looks like. Holocaust money was used in numerous Nazi concentration camps, extermination camps, and ghettos. Each camp and ghetto had its own unique money. A key question: why did the Nazis issue special concentration camp and ghetto money? There were four main reasons. First, there was a source of income for the Nazi camp administrators. All incoming inmates had to exchange whatever money they had for camp or ghetto money. Thus, the Nazis received legitimate money, and the incoming inmates received money that could not be used anywhere else except in that camp and in that ghetto. In addition, the Nazis charged the inmates a 30% fee for this exchange, supposedly for administrative fees. Second, it was a public relations tool. Despite the horrible conditions in the concentration camps, the Nazis wanted to project an alternate image to the world. By showing the International Red Cross that the camp inmates had money to spend in canteens, it gave an air of normalcy to the camps which masked their true purpose of misery and death. Thirdly, it was an incentive for the prisoners to work harder. They could be awarded camp money for extraordinary efforts while performing their forced labor activities. And finally, it further humiliated the prisoners by giving the prisoners what was essentially fake money. They were made to feel even lower in status. Now, how was Holocaust money obtained by the inmates? As mentioned before, one method that inmates received camp money was that when they were incarcerated, they had to exchange whatever legitimate money they had for camp or ghetto money. We talked about this. A second method of getting camp money was by earning it through outstanding work. A German SS regulation said in part, quote, all inmates assigned to labor are to have the possibility to earn a premium in money by performance. The premium to be granted in premium scrip that represents value in money within the camp as a reward to those inmates that distinguish themselves by good performance, diligence, and special interest. What did the inmates use Holocaust money for? In Auschwitz, prisoners could earn their scrip for the purchase of items in the canteen. Those items included marinated beets, snails in salty sauce, mineral water, cigarettes, shaving equipment, toothbrushes, toothpaste, envelopes for letters, and postage stamps. In Terezinstadt, the most common use of the currency was to pay the 50 krona deposit to borrow, quote, special books from the library. These books were so precious that borrowers usually did not bother to get their deposits back, but they just kept the books. In Auschwitz, there was a prisoner who was an Italian Jewish chemist, writer, and Holocaust survivor named Primo Levi. In his book, Survival at Auschwitz, he wrote how he was rewarded camp money and what he did with it. Quote, Primo Levi said, at one time my job was to dig a tunnel without help for a water main under the road. The feat did not go unrewarded. Just before Christmas, 1944, I was presented with a gift of so-called premium coupons. These were issued by the construction firm to which we were practically sold as slaves. The firm paid the camp authority a fixed price per day per prisoner. The coupons cost the firm 50 pfennig each and could be exchanged for 6 cigarettes. I became the proud owner of a token worth 12 cigarettes. But more important, the cigarettes could be exchanged for 12 soups, and 12 soups were often a very real respite from starvation. In the Lodz Ghetto, there were coins in circulation. In addition to being used as small change, the coins had another function. They were made of magnesium alloy. Magnesium is very flammable. Because matches were overpriced and ineffective, the coins were employed not only as money, but as a fire starter. What Holocaust money looked like. We will now look at some of the actual money that was used in concentration camps. The Iranian concentration camp was one of the first detention facilities established by the Nazis and the first workers' camp to have its own money. The Iranian 50 pfennig note is shown here. It is brown and has two SS guards flanking the official Nazi emblem. The Nazi guards are angular and without emotion. They are both holding rifles. Underneath each of the soldiers is the denomination of the note, which you can see is 50 pfennig under each soldier. There is a thick line of barbed wire going through the middle of the note. In the center of the note, under the swastika, is the word Lagergeld, which means camp money. The next line says concentration lager, meaning concentration camp, and the name Oranienburg. The Iranian 1 mark note is light blue. It depicts a prisoner shoveling dirt, and behind the prisoner you can see the outlines of a swastika. In the middle of the note it says Eine Mark, 1 mark, Lagergeld, camp money for concentration camp Oranienburg. This is the 5 pfennig note. You can see the number 5 on the left-hand side, PFG meaning pfennig, Lagergeld meaning concentration camp money, and here it says concentration lager Oranienburg, Oranian concentration camp. This is the back of the 5 pfennig note. It says 5 pfennig on top, and it's signed on the bottom by 3 Nazi officials. We'll now take a look at the Westerborg concentration camp. Westerborg was used for transporting the Jews in Holland to concentration camps further east. More than 100,000 Dutch Jews are estimated to have passed through Westerborg, including the teenager Anne Frank, who gained posthumous fame in her diary, for her diary. We'll now look at some of Westerborg's money. This is the Westerborg 10-cent note, the front of it. We see the denomination 10 cent in the upper left and the lower right-hand corner. In the top middle, it says Lager, Westerborg camp, and the word Gutschein means coupon. This is the back of the 10-cent note. We see a profile of the town of Westerborg. There's a gear around the camp. we see the serial number and the commandant of the camp's signature. Here's the 25-cent note, front and back. It has the same format as the 10-cent note, but the color is red. Here's the 50-cent note, the front of it, the same format, but now the color is blue. And here's the 100-cent note. The color is a light gray. The next camp we're going to talk about is Flossenburg. After Dachau, Buchenwald, and Oranienburg, Flossenburg was the fourth concentration camp established in Germany by the Nazis. It was a small village located in southern Germany near the Czech border. The first prisoners arrived in Flossenburg during the spring of 1938. Living conditions in Flossenburg were extremely hard. You can get a feel for that by the picture. Initially, prisoners were put to work cutting and hauling stones in the nearby quarry. Later, their efforts were redirected to assembling parts for fighter planes near the local Messerschmitt factory. This is the Flossenburg half of a Reichsmark note. The wording on the note says premium Schein, meaning premium note, Über Reichsmark half, for a half of a Reichsmark. Then you have the words concentration camp, Flossenburg, and the official Nazi symbol. Here's the Flossenburg 1 Reichsmark note, the same wording, the color is different, and the number here says 1 as opposed to half. This is an interesting note that I came across. I really don't know very much how it exists or how it was created, but in the middle left-hand part of the note, you have the word Jude, Jew, stamped on the note. The next concentration camp that we're going to look at is Buchenwald. This is a picture of Buchenwald from the outside. You can see the barbed wire fence and the watchtower. Together with its many satellite camps, Buchenwald was one of the largest concentration camps established by the Nazis. SS authorities opened Buchenwald in 1937, July, in East Central Germany. Most of the early inmates were political prisoners. The Buchenwald camp system became an important source of forced labor for the German war effort. SS authorities and business executives deployed prisoners to at least 88 satellite camps, mostly in armament factories, in stone quarries, and on construction projects. Now let's take a look at some of the money at Buchenwald. Here's a 1 Reichsmark note, the front. You see the word Canteen, Buchenwald, 1, RM stands for Reichsmark, and here's the serial number 26877. The back of the 1 Reichsmark note also says Canteen Buchenwald, 1 Reichsmark, and the same serial number. This is the 2 Reichsmark notes, same format. The color is now red. This is the back of the 2 Reichsmark note. You see 2 Reichsmark and the serial number. The 3 Reichsmark note, different color. The half of Reichsmark note. The back of the half Reichsmark note. The next concentration camp we're going to look at is the camp called Dachau. This picture is taken from the outside of the camp, and you can see the barbed wire. Dachau was established in March 1933. It was located in the suburb of Munich, Germany. At Dachau, the prisoners underwent medical experiments, forced labor, and executions. There were 32,000 documented deaths at Dachau and many more undocumented deaths. The majority of the prisoners at Dachau were Jewish. By the end of the war, over 200,000 prisoners had been through Dachau. Hannah Arendt, a German-born American political theorist, suggested that, quote, the camp was itself a vast laboratory in which the Nazis proved that there's no limit to human depravity. There's now a memorial at Dachau that has the phrase "never again" in 5 languages. This is the 4 Reichsmark note of Dachau. All of Dachau's notes have a standard format. You see the word Konzentrationslager, Dachau concentration camp. Second line says premium shine, meaning premium note. Halfling NR means prisoner number, and it's worth 4 Reichsmark, and here is the serial number. Here's a 1 Reichsmark note from Dachau. Again, Konzentrationslager Dachau, premium shine, premium note, Halfling number. And here we can see an actual prisoner number. The number is 56395. It's worth 1 Reichsmark. And the date it was created was 1945, March 30th, 1945. The next camp whose money we will look at is Mittelbau. The Mittelbau concentration camp was established in central Germany, north of the town of Nordhausen. This is the 1 Reichsmark note from Mittelbau. The series is N. It says concentration camp Mittelbau. And it's worth 1 Reichsmark. This is the back of the 1 Reichsmark note. The back of all notes from Mittelbau have the same wording, which says, the safekeeping of the funds for these vouchers is maintained by the central administration of the SS canteens in the Mittelbau area garrison. Counterfeiting will be dealt with in the most severe manner. Here's the front of the 2 Reichsmark note. It's a different color. This is Series K. This is the 5 Reichsmark note, Series G. And this is the 10 Reichsmark note, Series B. Following the June 1941 German invasion of the Soviet Union, the Nazis started building a new type of concentration camp. This new type of concentration camp was called an extermination camp. These camps were used to implement what the Nazis called, quote, the final solution to the Jewish question. These camps were built for the purpose of killing prisoners on a production basis. These new camps included Auschwitz, Majdanek, Belzec, Chelmno, Sobibor, and Treblinka. All of the extermination camps were located in occupied Poland. This is the entrance to Auschwitz, and the famous false statement, Arbeit macht frei, work sets you free. Pure irony. Precise numbers are still debated, but according to the U.S. Holocaust Memorial Museum, the German SS systematically killed at least 960,000 of the 1.2 million Jews deported to Auschwitz. More people died at Auschwitz than at any other Nazi concentration camp, and probably any death camp in history. After the camp was liberated, they found the following scratched into the wall of one of the prison cells, quote, if there is a God, he will have to beg for my forgiveness, end of quote. And believe it or not, even in a death camp like Auschwitz, Nazis printed and used money. This is the half Reichsmark note from Auschwitz. Premium Schein über Reichsmark 1/2. Premium note for a half of a Reichsmark. The second line says Konzentrationslager Auschwitz, Auschwitz concentration camp. Here's the 1 Reichsmark note. Again, premium Schein, premium note for 1 Reichsmark, Konzentrationslager Auschwitz, Auschwitz concentration camp. In addition to concentration camps, a second method that the Nazis used to incarcerate the Jews of Europe was a ghetto. This is a Hungarian Jewish ghetto. You can see a Jewish star painted on the wall. and the note that says ghetto with a Jewish star. And you can see soldiers questioning people who want to enter or exit. A ghetto is a part of a city in which members of a minority group live, typically as a result of social, legal, or economic pressure. The term was originally used in Venice, starting in 1516, to describe that part of the city to which Jews were restricted or segregated. After the invasion of Poland in 1939, the Nazis designated areas of larger Polish cities and towns as exclusively Jewish ghettos, and within weeks embarked on a massive program of uprooting Polish Jews from their homes and businesses through forcible expulsions. Entire Jewish communities were deported into these closed-off ghettos. This is building the wall to close off the famous Warsaw Ghetto. The first large metropolitan ghetto was known as the Lodz or the Lichtenstadt Ghetto. It was set up in April 1940. The Warsaw Ghetto was set up in October 1940. Many ghettos were sealed from the outside, as you can see here. They were walled off with brickwork or enclosed with barbed wire. Any Jew found leaving a sealed ghetto could be shot. The Warsaw Ghetto, located in the heart of the city, was the largest ghetto in Nazi-occupied Europe, with over 400,000 Jews crammed into an area of 1.3 square miles. The Lodz Ghetto was the second largest, holding about 160,000 people. According to the United States Holocaust Memorial Museum archives, there were at least 1,000 such ghettos in German-occupied Poland and the Soviet Union alone. The living conditions in the ghettos were generally brutal. This is the entrance to the Lodz Ghetto. The sign says Jewish residential area, entry forbidden. The Lodz Ghetto is the first ghetto whose money we will look at. The Jews in Lodz formed the second largest Jewish community in pre-war Poland after Warsaw. German troops occupied Lodz 1 week after Germany invaded Poland on September 1st, 1939. In early February 1940, the Germans established a ghetto in the northeastern section of Lodz, the first ghetto to be established in World War II and the last to be closed. About 160,000, more than a third of the city's population, were forced into this small area. The Germans isolated the ghetto from the rest of Lodz with barbed wire fencing. As early as May 1940, the Germans established factories in the ghetto and used Jewish residents for forced labor. The factories produced textiles, especially uniforms, for the German army. Now we'll talk about the money used in the Lodz Ghetto. Here is the 1 mark note. You can see eine Mark. It's signed by the oldest Jew in Lichtenstadt, a man by the name of Chaim Mordechai Rumkowski. And the date here is Lichtenstadt, 15 May 1940. You can see a Jewish star in the upper left-hand corner. And in the background of the note, you can say it's barbed wire, but the barbed wire is made up of Jewish stars. And on the circumference of the note is Jewish stars linked by barbed wire. Here you have the number 1 standing for 1 mark, and here you have the serial number of the note, 332160. This is the background of the 1 mark note. You see another Jewish symbol, the 7-branch menorah as described in the Torah. Kritun über ein Mark, it is worth 1 mark. You see the number 1 on both sides, surrounded by circles. The background is again barbed wire made up of Jewish stars. And the circumference of the note is surrounded by Jewish stars connected with barbed wire. This is the 2 mark note. The back of it, 2 Mark, 2 marks. The menorah again, the Jewish star background. This is the back of the 10 mark note. You see the menorah again, the number 10, the Jewish star, and Kritung über 10 mark, it's a receipt for 10 marks. This is the front of the 20 mark note. And this is the front of the 50 mark note. The large ghetto was unique as it was the only ghetto that issued coins in addition to paper money. 3 coins were minted. All had the same simple design and verbiage. The coin's front has a large Jewish star, the word ghetto, the year 1943, and a circle made up of Jewish stars and lines. The coin's reverse says Kritung über, which means receipt for, and the number 5, 10, and 20 marks. Around the circumference are the words elder of the Jew in Lichtenstadt. That's the authority for the note. The final ghetto we're going to talk about is named Terezinstadt. Terezinstadt was a former fortress named for the 18th century empress Maria Theresa. After Germany invaded and occupied Czechoslovakia on June 4th, 1940, the Gestapo took control of the town of Terezinstadt and set up a prison. The first inmates to arrive at Terezinstadt were predominantly Czech. Later, other nationalities were imprisoned there, including citizens of the Soviet Union, Poland, Germany, and Yugoslavia. Eventually, according to official records, more than 58,000 prisoners were housed in Terezinstadt. More than 33,000 inmates died at Terezinstadt as a result of malnutrition, disease, and the sadistic treatment of their captors. Yet, despite all of this, Terezinstadt was used by the Nazis to try and hide the horrors of their regime. It was turned into a normal, even attractive, fake town. Part of the facade was the use of money especially created for Terezinstadt. The money was designed in 1942 by a Czech artist, poet, and inmate by the name of Peter Keen, who was later murdered in Auschwitz in 1944. The portrait showed a dignified Moses holding the Ten Commandments. Now I want you to look at the image at the left. Here's a dignified Moses holding the Ten Commandments. His hair is combed, his beard is combed. However, Richard Heydrich, the Gestapo chief, immediately rejected the design, saying that Moses looked too Aryan. Instead, Heydrich wanted Moses to be portrayed with a prominent hook nose. That's the prominent hook nose. Elongated fingers and curly, kinky hair. Heydrich also required that Moses' hand obscured the commandment, "Thou shalt not kill." Talk about irony. Heydrich's changes were incorporated into the final version of the Terezinstadt Notes. This is the 1 krona note, the front, and you can see Heydrich's changes to the face of Moses. Wrinkled brow, messed up hair, elongated fingers. And also, Heydrich required that Moses' hand obscured the commandment, "Thou shalt not kill." You want to talk about irony? Terezinstadt money consisted of 7 denominations. All denominations had the same design. This is the front of the note, and this is the back of the note. This is the 100 krona note. Quittung über 100 krona, receipt for 100 krona. It says on the bottom, Terezinstadt, 1 January 1943, and it's signed by the oldest Jew in Terezinstadt, a man by the name of Jacob Edelstein. These are all 7 denominations of the Terezinstadt notes. 1 krona, 2 kronas, 5 kronas, 10 kronas, 20 kronas, 50 kronas, and 100 kronas. This concludes our look at concentration camp and ghetto money. It should give us a better understanding of how the Nazis used something as mundane as this money as a tool to further subjugate and humiliate the Jews and others in their captivity. Nachum, how do we take questions, if there are any?